Imagine this. It's the early 1600s. A fully armored samurai, sword at his side, walks the streets of Acapulco, Mexico. He's thousands of miles from home, a ghost from a distant land. Sounds like a fantasy movie, right? But this actually happened. This is the incredible, almost unbelievable story of Hasekura Tsunenaga, the samurai who led one of history's most ambitious diplomatic missions, bridging Japan and the New World. Our story begins in a Japan on the brink of dramatic change. The Sengoku period, a century of constant civil war, had just ended. The new Tokugawa shogunate was consolidating power, and its view of the outside world was complicated. Foreign traders and missionaries, especially from Spain and Portugal, were viewed with deep suspicion. The government feared their influence could destabilize the newly won peace and even lead to colonization. But one man, a powerful and ambitious daimyo named Dat Masamune, saw things differently. Known as the One-Eyed Dragon, Masamune was a brilliant strategist and ruler of the Sendai domain in northern Japan. He wasn't just interested in military power, he saw immense potential in international trade. He dreamed of opening a direct trade route with Nueva España, what we now call Mexico, bypassing the Portuguese and Spanish middlemen who controlled the existing routes. To lead this audacious mission, Masamune needed someone extraordinary, not just a diplomat, but a warrior. Someone with unwavering loyalty, courage, and the composure to navigate completely alien cultures. He chose one of his most trusted retainers, Hasekura Tsunenaga. Hasekura wasn't just any samurai. He was a veteran of the Japanese invasions of Korea, a man of proven skill and steadfast character. At 42 years old, he was a seasoned warrior and a respected leader. This mission would test every ounce of his experience. He was to lead a delegation of over 100 people, including merchants, fellow samurai, and a Franciscan friar named Luis Sotelo, who was a key architect of the whole plan. Their vessel was as remarkable as the mission itself. Built in Japan using European shipbuilding techniques, it was a 500-ton galleon named the San Juan Bautista, or the Date Maru, as the Japanese called it. Think about that for a second. Japanese shipwrights, with some European guidance, built a massive ocean-faring vessel capable of crossing the largest ocean on Earth. This was a testament to their incredible skill and adaptability. In late 1613, Hasekura and his embassy set sail from the coast of Japan. For 3 months, they battled the vast, unforgiving Pacific. Imagine the scene on that ship. Japanese samurai, accustomed to the structured life of their homeland, sharing close quarters with Spanish sailors, crossing a sea none of them had ever seen before. The cultural exchange, the challenges, the sheer bravery, it's mind-boggling. Finally, in January 1614, they sighted land. They had arrived in Acapulco, the main Pacific port of Nueva España. When Hasekura and his delegation disembarked, they must have been a spectacular sight. Samurai in traditional armor and robes walking through a bustling Spanish colonial city filled with Mexican, Spanish, and indigenous people. The local population was stunned. Records describe the Japanese as people of great reason and quality. Hasekura was treated as a high-ranking dignitary. He and his delegation journeyed overland from Acapulco to Mexico City, a long and arduous trip. When they finally reached the capital, they were granted an audience with the Viceroy of New Spain. Hasekura presented his letters from Date Masamune, formally proposing a trade treaty. The Viceroy was impressed, but hesitant. The power to sign such a treaty rested not with him, but with King Philip III of Spain. And so, the mission had to continue. Hasekura and a smaller portion of his delegation prepared for the next leg of their journey, crossing the Atlantic to Europe. Before leaving Mexico, a significant event took place. Hasekura, along with many of his companions, was baptized. In a grand ceremony, he was given the Christian name Felipe Francisco Hasekura. Now, was this a genuine conversion of faith or a strategic, diplomatic move to gain favor with the Spanish court? Historians still debate this. Given the context, it was likely a pragmatic decision to show his goodwill and sincerity to the deeply Catholic Spanish Empire he was trying to negotiate with. It demonstrated his commitment to building a bridge between their two worlds. From Mexico, they boarded a Spanish fleet and sailed for Spain. When they arrived in Madrid in early 1615, they caused an absolute sensation. A delegation of Japanese samurai at the heart of the Spanish Empire. Hasekura had an audience with King Philip III himself. He presented his proposals and was met with a polite but non-committal response. The king was intrigued but also wary of upsetting the existing Portuguese trade monopolies and the delicate balance of power in Asia. The journey wasn't over. Hasekura then traveled to Rome to meet the most powerful religious figure in the Western world, Pope Paul V. At the Vatican, the samurai ambassador was received with all the pomp and ceremony befitting a royal envoy. He was even made an honorary Roman citizen, a decree that still exists in the city's archives today. He presented a letter to the Pope requesting the dispatch of more missionaries to Japan, another move to strengthen his diplomatic case. The Pope was impressed by Hasekura's dignity and intelligence, but like the Spanish king, he offered support without concrete promises. After nearly 2 years in Europe, Hasekura began his long journey home, carrying letters from the Pope and the king, but no firm trade agreement. He sailed back to Mexico and then, after a long wait, boarded the San Juan Bautista once more for the final voyage across the Pacific. When Hasekura Tsunenaga finally returned to Japan in 1620, he had been away for 7 years. He had circumnavigated the globe, met a king and a pope, and seen worlds beyond anything his countrymen could imagine. But the Japan he returned to was not the one he had left. In his absence, the Tokugawa shogunate's attitude towards the outside world had hardened dramatically. The policy of sakoku, or closed country, was being put into place. Christianity was now actively persecuted, and all foreign contact was being severed. Date Masamune's ambitious plan for international trade was dead in the water. Hasekura's mission, once a source of great hope, was now seen as a political liability. Because he had been baptized and had spent so much time with foreigners, he fell under suspicion. There's no evidence he was persecuted, and his lord, Date Masamune, likely protected him. But he was forced to renounce his new faith. The world traveler, the man who had walked the halls of European power, lived out the rest of his days quietly, his grand adventure ending not with a bang, but with a whisper. He died just 2 years after his return. For centuries, the story of Hasekura Tsunenaga was largely forgotten, a strange footnote in the annals of history. But what he achieved was nothing short of monumental. He led the first Japanese embassy to the Americas and Europe. He commanded a trans-Pacific voyage on a Japanese-built ship. He was a pioneer who dared to connect two sides of the world that knew almost nothing of each other. His mission may have failed in its immediate goal of securing a trade treaty, but its true legacy is one of incredible courage, ambition, and the universal human desire to explore and connect. Hasekura Tsunenaga wasn't just a samurai who conquered Mexico. He didn't, of course, conquer it in a military sense. He was something far more remarkable, an ambassador who bridged worlds. His forgotten voyage is a powerful reminder that history is full of amazing stories, just waiting to be rediscovered. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey back in time. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more deep dives into forgotten history. Let me know in the comments what you think. Was Hasekura's conversion genuine or strategic? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, stay curious.